Hello, my name is Jade Jongsatapanpong, and I went to Oxnard High School, graduated back in 2019. I would be a second year student studying physics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, except that I'm taking this year off, partly because of COVID, but also because in the summer and fall I'm hoping to spend some time working on plasma disruption mitigation at the ITER tokamak, a fusion experiment that's going on in France. Anyway, so the first thing is, could you give a brief rundown of your high school stats and experience? Test scores, AP scores, GPA, amount of it. You get the idea. Yeah, that's kind of a lot. Let me just get this out of the way. I don't really like talking about stats. Hopefully you'll see why in a moment. But I do get that maybe you want to see, like, I don't know, a concrete example of someone's stats. I don't know, I just find that word kind of funny because it's like we're Pokemon or something. Anyway, so yeah, I'll just have them put that up on the screen, and if you're morbidly curious, you can pause the video and take a look. Personally, I wouldn't take that information too literally, because as much as your counselors or maybe your teachers try to like shove it in your face that, like, oh, in order to be successful, you need to get a good GPA, or a great SAT score means you'll get into a good college, which means you'll be somehow successful in life. Like, I don't know, I personally don't think that's exactly true. And you're probably like, well, that's rich coming from someone like me, but bear with me for a moment. I think there's two main things wrong with that narrative. First, and more practically, is the assumption that if you decide to get into college, or if you decide you want to try and get into college, that test scores and stats are the thing to go for. Like, sure, having great stats can't hurt, but at the same time, they're not the deciding factor, and they definitely don't define, like, who we are. You know, we're more than just numbers. We're people with skills, personality, dreams, stuff like that, all that human jazz. So try not to let yourself get pressured into thinking otherwise. You know, you won't not get into a school just because you got a 24 instead of a 26 on the ACT, and like getting a 1500 on the SAT doesn't somehow make you a better person than someone who got a 1200. Yeah. So standardized tests, just do some practice, you know, give yourself a fair chance. There's plenty of free stuff online, but don't get worked up about it. Like, just take the test once or twice and leave it. You know, getting amazing at taking standardized tests is not going to help you make the world a better place. Yeah, there's more important things, and you know, you decide what those are to you. The second thing wrong is definitely that you need to get into a good college in order to be successful, whatever that means. Now, I've known quite a few counterexamples to that, but I think we're getting like a bit too far off topic. So yeah, back to that quick rundown, right? So high school experience. Now, definitely the stuff you do outside of classes is more important than any test score. Like, doing stuff sort of helps you find out who you are as a person and what you like to do, and maybe what you'd like to do in the future. And talking about the stuff you do is, I think anyway, a good way to show those things to other people, including college admissions people. So you're probably wondering, like, well, what did I do? So freshman year, I followed my friends around and joined a bunch of different clubs. Anyway, so one of the big things was Academic Decathlon. Steven, one of my teammates who's at Stanford now, explained like what that's about, so I'm not going to explain it here. But the other thing for me was MESA, which is this program put together by the UC and CSU community, where you sort of take part in a bunch of science, engineering, math competitions, and get to visit college campuses like UCSB and UC Santa Cruz, and do like some tech science workshop stuff, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, that's another thing. Don't be afraid. Those two things that I mentioned, I did way more than that, but not all of it ended up being very important to me. don't be afraid to try a lot of things. Like, you never know if you'll actually like it or not if you don't try it. That's pretty obvious. But the thing is, like, you can put yourself out there, and if you're finding that you don't really vibe with the thing, don't be afraid to like just slowly back out of it if as long as that doesn't do any damage, of course. Sophomore year was more of the same. I also played piano for this charity concert that a friend of mine put together. That was a fun experience. And I also started like tutoring at the school library, kind of trying to help people understand science and math stuff because I was reasonably competent at those things, and like teaching people kind of helps you learn stuff better as well. It was sort of my way of giving back, I guess. I also started working with this team that's doing like advanced aquaculture technologies, like new ways of farming stuff in the ocean. That was a fun time. Junior year, I helped start Oxnard's FRC robotics team as the president and sort of mechanical lead. If we didn't really have an official position for that, but I helped design our initial like robot stuff. Yeah. We ended up going to Houston to compete in Worlds. It was a whole lot of stress, but also really fun. I also started a team to participate in the MathWorks Math Modeling Challenge, which is this thing where you're given this sort of real-world problem and then told to try and come up with some solutions to it using math, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, the reason behind this was that I noticed that a lot of people I was tutoring were like, what the hell am I going to use this for? Or like, how is this even useful in the first place? So I wanted to try and give people a sort of a venue to see like how math ties into real life. And then senior year, I continued more of the same sort of thing, took on a different leadership position in MESA, organized some field trips for people, some small projects, and also wrote a little bit of a guide for like how to run the club. Next, how did you choose your major? Good one. So I went with physics, mainly because it's like very versatile. Like you can do a lot with like a physics background. Also because like peering into the depths of nature and how stuff works, I don't know, I just think that's interesting. But really in the future I imagine that I'll be doing like engineering research and probably something to do with energy or materials. So in that area, physics is a useful thing. Next question, how are the classes? Well, I'm not taking any classes right now, but in general, they're like non-trivial, as we say. For example, I took 5 classes my freshman spring, 4 technical ones and this one fun radio class where we put together a radio program. I think I spent like 30 to 50 hours a week on class-related stuff. I know that sounds kind of bad, but yeah, it's definitely way more than in high school. But at the same time, like the amount of time you spend actually in the classes is a lot less, like maybe 15 hours a week. Whereas in high school, you're doing like 7 hours a day? Yeah. So you have a lot more freedom as to how you want to allocate your time. The one thing I do like, and I think this is true of all colleges though, is that it's more of a pick your own adventure kind of thing. Like, I can choose to take whatever classes I want in whatever field that I'm interested in, and at whatever level I think will be useful to me. And I don't have to worry too much about like prerequisites. And in general, if you talk to a professor and convince them that this is a class that you should take for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if like you don't have the prerequisites, you will usually be allowed to take that class. Unlike high school, where you have this like predefined track of stuff that you have to do. One thing you love about your campus and or don't like. One thing that I like about campus is that the architecture is very diverse. Like, there's a lot of buildings that are visually very different, and I think that's a lot of fun. Whereas, like, if you go down the street to Harvard, everything just looks the same and it's kind of boring. Yeah, small detail. Also, everything is connected by these sets of underground tunnels that are pretty nice, actually, to walk around if it's cold outside and you don't want to be on the surface. How's the location in a similar vein? Well, the location's great. I mean, what more can I say? Cambridge is across the river, the Charles River, from Boston. And Boston is like this big city, has all the usual big city things, a lot of historical stuff as well, which is cool if you're into that. And the nice thing is that because it's one of these older cities, before like cars became a big thing, everything's compact. You can basically walk to anything that you could possibly need, which is quite nice. What was campus life like pre-COVID? Before COVID, everything was great. I mean, there was always stuff going on, like way more events and stuff than you could possibly hope to go to, put on by different clubs and orgs and stuff like that. It was a lot. I'm more of a kind of slow, I don't know if that's the right word, kind of person. So usually I would just spend my time like hanging around in lounges with people I lived with or with my friends. Usually those overlap. But there's also plenty of parties, like especially every Friday night, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a whole lot more to it as well. But really you just got to wander around campus and guaranteed you'll run into something on any given day. Like one time I was going to this electronics lab. I forget exactly why. I think I was trying to grab some components for a project or something. And on the way, like, I ran into this group of people that were practicing, like, lightsaber dueling. And I was like, wow, that's hilarious and also kind of interesting. This is probably getting too long, so one last thought. If you've decided that college is the path you'd like to take, I know that the whole process can be kind of stressful, so don't be afraid to give yourself a break from time to time. Burnout is real and it's not fun. And even though society tells you that like you always got to be on the grind or got to keep up the hustle to be productive and get things done, it's not really like that. Like, you know, to learn something or to truly do good work, you need to be in the right state of mind. And you don't get there by overwhelming yourself with what you're doing. Yeah, that's all. Take care of yourselves, guys, and thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to toss me a DM or something. Yeah. Cheerio.